Coming up on Network Africa, over 15 members of the former ruling party in Ethiopia's Tigray state appear in court. South African court orders former President Jacob Zuma to appear before a judicial panel investigating alleged corruption. Plus, Morocco's King Mohammed VI kicks off the country's nationwide coronavirus vaccine campaign. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. As the next batch of elections for positions in the African Union Commission next month gets closer, Nigeria's foreign minister is visiting some sister nations to drum up support for Nigeria's candidate for the political FFA, Peace and Security Commissioner position. Nigeria is fielding Ambassador Bankole Adeoye, a career diplomat with more than 3 decades of experience in several organs of the African Union, as well as the UN Commission for Africa. Nigeria's Foreign Minister Geoffrey Oyema met his South African counterpart in Pretoria today and gave our bureau chief, Betty Dibia, a glimpse of what the meeting was all about.
Okay, it's in respect of the African Union elections for commissioners and also for chairperson of the African Union Commission and deputy chairperson. These are going to take place in about a week's time.
Okay. We understand we're fielding a candidate for one of the commission positions.
That's right. For us, it's the most important position. It's the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security.
But South Africa is fielding a candidate in that particular position for commissioner. So how did the conversation go?
The meeting went extremely well. The meeting went very well because South Africa, although it's fielding a candidate for the same commission, it's also fielding another candidate for another position, commission. So they obviously can't have both, and it might well be something we could, negotiate for them to focus more on the other than on the Peace and Security Commission, whereas we're only fielding one candidate.
So what feedback did you get?
We got good feedback in the sense that they recognize and are aware of the qualities of our candidate. They also have a good, strong candidate. But they are chairing the AU now at the presidential level. Their president is the chairperson. And they also appreciate the importance of having the very best that Africa can offer in the leadership position in the Secretariat, because otherwise we're not going to be able to achieve a lot of the lofty ambitions of the organization and the continent, which is contained in an agenda 2063. So they recognize the quality of our candidate. There was a consultancy group that were charged with carrying out an evaluation of all the candidates, and kind of a pre-selection almost. And our candidate was the best finished top amongst all the candidates. So clearly his quality is there for all to see.
Well, South Africa's Constitutional Court has ruled that the former President Jacob Zuma must appear before a judicial panel investigating alleged corruption during his time in office. The court determined that he did not have the right to remain silent before the commission. Mr. Zuma is accused of looting state assets during his presidency, which he denies the allegations. The findings of the judicial panel will not lead directly to indictments, but can be passed on to prosecutors. Now, more than 15 members of the former ruling party in Ethiopia's Tigray state have appeared in court. They include a founding member of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, a former head of state, and a former speaker of the country's upper house of parliament. They were arrested earlier this month following a short but bloody conflict between the TPLF and the Ethiopian Federal Army. The government says they are being investigated for treason, launching attacks against the army, and engaging in armed uprising. However, they have not been formally charged. TPLF party leaders vowed to continue to fight, even after the regional capital was captured by the army at the end of November. And since then, some of the TPLF's most senior figures have died. But the whereabouts of the group's current head, Debretsion Gebremichael, is still unknown. To coronavirus stories now, Morocco's King Mohammed VI has launched the country's nationwide coronavirus vaccine campaign, getting his injection at the Royal Palace in the city of Fez. The palace released pictures showing the monarch wearing a face mask being jabbed in the arm on Thursday. A government statement says vaccines will be free for all Moroccan citizens and foreigners living in the North African Kingdom. The campaign will take place gradually and target people aged between 17 and 75 years. Morocco has one of the highest coronavirus infection rates in Africa and has confirmed over 460,000 cases, with more than 8,000 deaths since the pandemic began. The United Kingdom has added Burundi and Rwanda to the red list of countries where travel to the UK is banned. Now, the measure is aimed at stopping the spread of the South African variant that comes into force today. Now, British, Irish and third country nationals with residence rights in the UK will be allowed to enter, but they must self-isolate for 10 days at home. The UK Transport Minister Grant Sharp also says passengers allowed to enter the country will need proof of a negative test and a completed passenger locator form before arrival. Now, failure to provide these will result in two €500 fine. £500, I beg your pardon. Meanwhile, the German government has agreed to ban all travel from high-risk countries, including South Africa, the UK, Portugal and Brazil. The restrictions are due to be signed today and could come into force as early as Saturday. Germany's Interior Minister Horst Seehofer announced this ahead of a meeting with EU ministers on Thursday in an effort to limit new virus mutations entering the country. The ban will include all air, train and road travel, but German nationals who are returning home could be excluded. Meanwhile, Algeria is set to receive its first doses of COVID-19 vaccine today and begin immunization on Saturday. The communication minister says the country will receive the Russia Sputnik V vaccine. Other doses from China and India are expected later. The elderly and healthcare workers are among first recipients of the vaccines. The immunization is set to begin in the province of Blida. Now, the country's president, Abdelmajid Tebboune, is still in Germany, where he's being treated for complications arising from his coronavirus treatment last year. The country has so far recorded 106,359 cases of the virus, including 2,877 deaths. Now, that's according to data from Johns Hopkins University. The World Health Organization says discovery of new COVID-19 variants in several African countries risks prolonging the second wave in the continent and overwhelming its already fragile public health systems. Matshidiso Moeti, WHO Regional Director for Africa, raised the alarm over the spread of new coronavirus strains that are highly contagious and could undermine efforts to flatten the curve in the country. In a statement, the WHO Regional Director says the variant, which was first detected in South Africa, has spread quickly beyond the continent.
We are seeing more and more cases of variant N501Y.V2, which was first identified in South Africa, now cropping up in other countries. So far, 6 African countries and areas have confirmed cases of this variant, including Botswana, Ghana, Kenya, Mayotte, and Zambia. Beyond Africa, the variant has been confirmed in 24 countries globally, and there's concern it is circulating in other countries in Africa as yet undetected.
Well, Zimbabwe's coronavirus lockdown has been extended for another 2 weeks until February the 15th. Vice President Constantino Chiwenga, who is acting health minister, made the announcement on national television. A 30-day level 4 lockdown began on January 5th, following a surge in infections over the festive season. Only essential services, including hospitals, pharmacies and supermarkets, have been allowed to operate. Restrictions include a stay-at-home order, a curfew and a ban on the sale of alcohol. Now, last week, 2 Zimbabwean cabinet ministers died after contracting coronavirus. We move on to the crisis in Libya. Acting Special Representative of the Secretary General in Libya, Stephanie Williams, says the responsibility for the implementation of the ceasefire agreement rests not with the JMC, but with the political and military leadership of both sides. While addressing the Security Council via a video link, Williams called on the GNA and LAAF to fully assume their responsibilities and fully implement the ceasefire agreement. She also echoed the Secretary General's appeal to all regional and international actors to respect the provisions of the deal.
I would like to stress that responsibility for the implementation of the ceasefire agreement rests not with the JMC, but with the political and military leadership of both sides. I call on the Government of National Accord and the LAAF to fully assume their responsibilities and fully implement the ceasefire agreement. I also wish to echo the Secretary General's appeal to all regional and international actors to respect the provisions of the ceasefire agreement. The JMC has repeatedly requested the enforcement of the UN arms embargo and for international assistance to expedite the departure of foreign fighters, to underpin their valiant efforts to negotiate the opening of the coastal road to reconnect eastern and western Libya. 1 year later, the intra-Libyan dialogues, facilitated by UNSMIL through the complementary political, military, and economic tracks, have produced tangible progress. A ceasefire is in place. The Tunis roadmap, adopted in mid-November, has charted the course for the restoration of democratic legitimacy through setting a clear date for national elections and for the establishment of a unified, temporary executive authority. And long overdue economic financial reforms are well underway.
The United Nations envoy to Somalia has welcomed recent developments being experienced as regards the country's national elections. The UN envoy was speaking at a joint media encounter in Hishabel's capital, Joa. Over recent weeks, Somalia's international partners have been urging the country's leaders to come together in a spirit of consensus and collaboration to resolve differences over the implementation of an electoral plan they had agreed on in September last year.
I was pleased to see the statement this morning from Jubaland and Puntland, as well as the announcement of their nominees to the state election implementation teams. I will be consulting later today with other international partners as we agree on our collective response to these developments. But my initial reaction is that while overdue, the issuance of these lists is a positive, welcome development. I also welcome the very helpful proposal for a meeting of Federal Government of Somalia and federal member state leaders, which is fully consistent with repeated partner appeals for Somalia's leaders to reach agreement on implementation of the electoral model adopted on September 17th. Hirshabelle is the youngest of Somalia's federal member states, established in 2016. We know that its development needs are significant in light of this, and the UN family continues to provide support in various fields, including with development and humanitarian assistance, but also with security and reconciliation efforts.
Still ahead on the program. Our Africa Tech segment takes a look at how technology is being used to boost Nigeria's housing sector. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. After 13 years of legal battle, a Dutch appeals court has ordered energy giant Shell's Nigerian subsidiary to compensate two farmers for damage to their land caused by leaks in 2004 and 2005. Two of the farmers have died since the case was first filed in 2008. Royal Dutch Shell had argued that saboteurs were responsible for leaks in underground oil pipes that have polluted the Delta. But the appeals court ruled that while sabotage was the most likely scenario in two of the villages, it could not be established beyond reasonable law, meaning the Nigerian subsidiary was liable. In 2013, the Hague District Court ordered Shell Nigeria to compensate one of the four farmers involved in the case for making it too easy for saboteurs to open a well head that leaked onto his land. However, the court cleared Shell of blame in pollution of the other three farmers' lands and ruled that Shell's Dutch parent company could not be held liable. Both sides appealed, and judges ruled in 2015 that Shell could be held to account in Dutch courts for its actions in Nigeria. The judges also ordered Shell to give the plaintiffs access to documents that could shed more light on the cause of the leaks and how much Shell management knew about them. The amount of compensation will be established at a later date, while the decision can still be appealed up to the Dutch Supreme Court. Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. Finding affordable apartments for rent is probably the number one issue in real estate market. Tenants often face difficulties trying to find housing with good infrastructures at a reasonable price, and landlords or homeowners are skeptical about the kind of people they lease their property to. But over the years, innovators have come up with ways to help improve the efficiency of the process. Live Easy, a home rental startup connecting property owners with managers and tenants, provides a centralized platform to make rent management seamless. For the average Nigerian, finding a home to rent sometimes could be a daunting task, and as some would say, an impossible mission. According to the federal government of Nigeria, there is a wide gap between the demand for and supply of housing units, with over 72 million Nigerians in need of a decent accommodation. The Center for Affordable Housing Finance in Africa states that currently the country has a housing deficit burden of 17 million units, which would require about 35 trillion naira to fund. Same source also states that as a result of the high cost and limited production of affordable housing in Nigeria, 51% of the population live in rented accommodation, with the majority of the population forced to rent, and low regulatory monitoring regarding rentals, landlords and estate agents dictating the market. But to solve the problems within the home rental ecosystem and improve renting conditions, a tech company in Nigeria, Live Easy, has created a platform to connect homeowners and property managers with tenants.
We're trying to reduce rent loss We're trying to make it much more easier for people to find houses to rent and able to pay for it, right? We also want to be able to help property owners have a clearer view of what happens in their property. And we are also trying to improve data accessibility in that particular market for verification purposes.
The tech-driven home rental services platform enable renters get easy access to rent financing, quality rental homes, and better homeowner-tenant relationship. The homeowner, on the other hand, is guaranteed rent payments as and when due and a cost-efficient way of managing his rental home.
We created a solution that takes the key players and put them in one platform, and then give them some management tools that help them transparently interact between each other.
But as they try to solve the problems of property management, the home rental management platform also has its trials.
They report the home rental as in the real estate statistics. Right, so there's no specific information about what is really happening in the home rental. We also had to work with trust, making them understand that what we are trying to do is even open the market better for you, make it easy for a landlord to request for a property manager, and make it also easy for you to have access to the bulk of property owners available. But more limiting for us was the fact that funds were very scarce. Right, and because we are trying to push something totally new, a whole lot of potential investors, we are not interested in taking the risk with us. So we basically had to bootstrap.
With lots of conflict often arising from landlord-tenant relationships, solutions like that of Live Easy could make finding affordable and flexible housing choices easier. Well, the coronavirus pandemic has prompted Egyptians to build robots, design virus-shaped ice cream, and most recently a cake resembling a vaccine vial. It's the work of Amy Ezzet, an aspiring Egyptian baker who delivers the cakes to patients fighting coronavirus pandemic at a Cairo hospital.
In Egypt, you can get your COVID-19 vaccine and also eat it too. An aspiring Egyptian baker has made a cake resembling a vaccine vial, which she delivers to patients fighting the coronavirus pandemic at the Cairo hospital.
I got the idea of making this cake since the coronavirus pandemic began, and now the vaccine is being distributed around the world. I'd like to do this cake to give hope to patients fighting the virus, something to make them happy, something as simple as this, to give them hope and make them happy. I hope the future will be better.
According to Amy, the grey and white cake with the words coronavirus vaccine glued on top with edible sugar sheets and fondant is meant to give coronavirus patients a glimmer of hope. Many around the world hope the pandemic will soon be over, especially now that countries around the world have started vaccinating their populations. The 3-layer vanilla sponge cake filled with raspberry cream with a chocolate coating took Ezzet 3 days to make and decorate, after which she boxed and delivered it to the May 15 hospital in Cairo's Helwan neighborhood.
This cake took around 3 days for me to make. I baked it, added the filling, I decorated it to look like a vial, and then used edible sugar sheets that people can eat for the writing.
Egypt began vaccinating its medical staff on Sunday, which will be provided free of charge first to all doctors and frontline health workers treating coronavirus patients, then other medical workers, senior citizens, and people with chronic illnesses. The country has recorded a total of 161,817 cases, including 8,959 deaths since the pandemic started.
Well, that's it on the program for today and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke. Have a great weekend.